Hi, everyone. Landry Etheridge here with Etheridge Counseling Group, here to chat with Channing Harris about holidays, family dynamics, hidden landmines, stepping into family gatherings. Thanks so much for being here, Channing. I'm really excited to talk to you about these things.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about them too.
Yeah, you've done an amazing job on these this article series that you've written. Really, I think doing a really good job of preparing people or helping people prepare for family dynamics through the holiday season. I think a lot of us can get really caught up in like the shopping and the decorating and the baking and everything and sort of lose touch with ourselves and how to take care of ourselves. And I'm just really excited for people to read this series of 4 articles. Tell me a little bit about how you hope to prepare clients for the holiday season or some of those pitfalls that you see clients maybe falling into or hoping to steer them away from. What does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, a lot comes with the holidays. I would say specifically making a game plan of, how are we going to set boundaries? That's really, really important. Personal boundaries with even ourselves, how we're going to spend our
Mm.
own time. How much time are we willing to spend shopping and decorating and doing all the things? Because there's costs to that. There's a healthy balance. That's all important. But if we only do that, then we miss out on the joy and the connection that the holiday season can bring.
Mm.
And so that's a big, big portion of it. And then also, how do we allow other people to do the same?
Mm.
That I think, usually one of the two, sometimes both are hard for us to swallow a little bit. That I also need to allow other people the opportunity to set healthy boundaries for themselves
Mm.
and be able
Mhm.
to respect that. They
That's
have,
something
the
I feel
right.
like, yeah, it doesn't get talked about very often.
Mhm.
But yeah, you have, usually when we're talking about boundaries, it's like you need to set your boundary and tell people how to treat you and not to treat you. But we forget that other people need support in setting healthy boundaries for themselves too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So what does that look like? What does that look like to support somebody else in setting boundaries for themselves?
I think it's like you said, talked about a lot of like how do you set personal boundaries, but it's also this idea of, I think a big portion is realizing that other people also have very similar needs to us.
Mm.
And so, this idea, and sometimes it can be hard to navigate those, but encouraging them to do the same. That, when you're asking yourself to set a boundary, looking to them, and, it doesn't have to be this open, like you don't have to say it in these words, but looking to them to say, okay, now what's your boundary? And
Mm.
if they bump up against each other and they seem conflicting, can we negotiate something that works for both of us,
Mm. Hmm. So
both
sort of the
parties?
addressing like those or being aware of maybe the competing needs sometimes.
Mhm.
We both have needs. What happens when they sort of bump up against each other? Um, yeah. So how do you navigate that?
And I think a big portion of that is like open conversations. And
Mm.
so if I'm able to identify my own needs, then I'm able to have an open conversation where what I'm saying and asking for is matching what I'm feeling that I need. I think a lot of the times we might say what we think people want us to say or what we
Uh,
feel like our needs should be, and
uh,
really checking in and being like, no, what's really coming up for me? Can what I'm bringing to the table, what I'm communicating match that?
mm.
That allows the other person a lot of opportunity to respond accordingly. If not, and we've all done it. This is a great example. We've all done it where we're upset and someone says, "Hey, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine."
Mm.
And that's a conflicting message. It's hard for that person to then therefore come alongside and support us. If they lean in, sometimes we kind of get upset. "I told you I was fine." And other
But they
times if
but they can
lean
pick up
out and
on that maybe not. Yeah.
yeah. And then if they lean out and they go, okay, well, you said you were fine, then we're like, oh my gosh, you abandoned me. I'm clearly not fine.
Mm.
And so it kind
Mhm.
of puts them in a lose lose situation and us in a lose lose situation.
Mm.
And so really trying to match what's coming up with us, like for us, with what we're communicating to other people.
Mm.
And then as we do that, other people generally realize, oh, this is okay for me to do as well. And so
Mm.
modeling that while it's not our responsibility can be a beautiful positive byproduct of that. But
Mm.
then also creating space for that it can be hard when other people respond with something that we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And, shifting our perspective to, instead of that having to be an explosive argument, that being like, okay, now we're kind of able to respond now. Now we can negotiate this because I know what you need and I know what I need. And so now how do we negotiate that? And that can be, how do we share responsibilities and things? It doesn't have to always look like the way I'm thinking you should share the responsibility, but I'm giving you the autonomy to say, I need you to share some of the responsibility. So what would you like that to look like?
Yeah. Honoring other people's autonomy and needs, and also taking ownership of your own needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leads into like that self-care
Yeah.
aspect that I would assume is pretty important all year round, but maybe particularly now.
Absolutely. And again, I've said this kind of a few times in this series, that how are we supposed to show up in a way that matches and is allowing other people the opportunity to respond to us in a helpful way when we have no clue what's going on? We can't know what's going on unless we're taking care of ourselves. And so that is why I think, how we do that for ourselves is talked about more. But then if we're able to do that on the back end, it's equally as important of allowing other people to do the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Taking care of yourself, knowing what's going on with yourself so you can actually advocate for it, being open to hearing other people's boundaries, coming to compromise where you can, engaging in that self-care, encouraging other people to do the same. Um, I know in the third part, which is sort of what we're talking about today, the third part of your 4-part series, you also kind of mentioned traditions, honoring traditions in a meaningful way. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think traditions are one of the most meaningful parts of holidays. It's so much more than just what we do this year. It's about what we've done for sometimes generations. There's a lot of meaning, it connects us to people that maybe aren't even here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it can be so deep rooted for some people, and difficult when we have these expectations about how we're going to honor these traditions, and maybe they don't always happen the way that we're wanting. And so how do we still honor them in a meaningful way, and be flexible to what the needs of our family and ourself is or
Mm-hmm.
are.
Mm-hmm.
And so evaluating those, like, what are these traditions that are really important to me, and considering, like, how can I apply this year? And it might look a little bit different, but that's okay as long as it's still honoring
Right. Yeah.
the experience and the people that I'm intending it to.
Right. Right. There's traditions that you can certainly do with other family members or friends, but there may also be traditions that are just important to you. Maybe lighting a candle in remembrance of a friend who's passed or a family member who's passed, or these small, meaningful traditions are really important to identify and make and prioritize and make sure that you do honor those things in some small way, whether it's with others or on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even like creating a new tradition of some kind.
Yeah, and a lot of times when we evaluate our traditions, sometimes we find that there are some that we're willing to let go for whatever reason. And then we also might find that some other things are popping up for us that we really want to honor that,
Mm,
and what can that look like? And
mhm,
so it can be this, it's not one size fits all. It can be what you need and what it's going to look like to best fit you and your family. And
mhm,
some of that might be, this is individually for me to do.
mhm.
Other ones of those might be, I would love to experience this with my family. Can we talk about that and how we can incorporate that in a meaningful way for everyone involved?
Mhm, mhm. And still honoring your boundaries and others' boundaries in the mix of all of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those are some very helpful tips. I can see where it could be very helpful to be working with a therapist this time of year, because I'm seeing as you're kind of talking about these things, I'm like, well, you could spend an entire 3 sessions on just that one aspect. I
Mm-hmm.
could see it being really helpful to, I mean, any time of year is a great time to to give
Yeah.
therapy a try. But I think particularly now, kind of leading up into the holidays and into the new year, really kind of setting yourself up for success versus kind of getting caught up in the chaos and kind of losing touch with what's important to you. Um, well, if anyone, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was also going to add, and I think it's really important if you think about this idea that, yeah, sometimes we need some extra support and also just allowing ourselves grace and kindness and other people grace and kindness. The
Mhm.
holidays are a hard season. You just listed all these things everyone's juggling. We're all juggling it. And so, allowing yourself that. And then if there's a point where we feel like we need some extra support, going and seeking that support because it's something that I believe each individual really does deserve. Everyone deserves to feel supported.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Which is why we are in this profession, because we believe in it. Yeah, personally and
Yeah.
professionally. Yes, I love that. Well, for anyone listening who is interested in starting therapy or doing a consultation or working with Channing, either if you're in a couple or individually, you can check out the website, landryetheridge.com, read the 4-part series that we've been referring to that Channing wrote recently about preparing for the holidays. You can also schedule your consultation there. And Channing, thanks so much for chatting with us. This has just been a real treat to talk through some of these things today with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed getting to talk about it.